John Cena's heel turn, and it's been something else, and maybe not in the way it's intended to be. Maybe it's not the best thing that people thought it was going to be. Did the die-hard fans who fantasy booked this for years get what they want out of Big Match Johnny? Finally turning heel, finally going from being the babyface to the bad guy? Is this the thing they wanted? Yeah, maybe it isn't. But maybe we just might have a discussion and be honest that the heel turn has hit some real bumps in the road and it doesn't seem to be working out as intended so far. WWE may still be on a roll, the big Netflix deal, huge stadium crowds around the world, fans certainly not being quiet, but this story at the top of the card is just putting a sour taste in the mouths of many who are not getting what they were fantasy booking for years. They're not getting exactly what they wanted from the Cena heel turn, and maybe, just maybe, that could be the point. So what exactly went wrong? Join us as we dive deep into the questionable, something terrible psychology of John Cena's heel turn. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin Kelm. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We're going to look at it from a few different angles. First, what is the issue that has been with Cena's heel run so far? And second, why it isn't exactly hitting the mark, and third, what can possibly be done by WWE to still turn things around? Yes, there's even more fantasy booking here. Starting with the issues, to put it simply, John Cena's heel turn isn't having the intended effect, and it isn't exactly connecting with the audience that maybe on the surface that we think is the intention. The way it was established made things seem a lot deeper than they actually were. That heel turn at the Elimination Chamber, yes, the alliance formed with The Rock and popular rapper Travis Scott made sense, only for fans to realize that they had to have a deeper understanding of things than maybe even WWE was trying to put out. The way the story was presented, it made Cena come off desperate, like he wanted one more world title, to break the world record for the world championships in WWE at all costs. And that has never been mentioned maybe in the past 2.5 months since he turned heel. Not the biggest issue, but it's kind of looming over everything. Instead, what we've gotten is basically a parody of a villain by the biggest babyface of all time, who's turned on the fans, with some of them booing him from many years ago and then some of them cheering him, and it's not clear. None of it is defined. It hardly seems like Cena is focused on his opponent, and each promo he's had recently is just a tirade against the fans. And you can see the visible confusion in the crowd with each passing segment. No one's being quiet, but it's just not defined. Every time he's insulting the fans, he's getting a negative to mixed reaction. But isn't that the point? He's supposed to be getting booed and shocking fans who stood by him for so long. On the surface, that makes sense, but maybe just on execution, it feels off. Fans are so used to seeing him being Clark Kent Superman type of good guy, and it seems like the masses can't fully compute that Cena isn't the hero anymore, and they still want him to be the hero, even though they've always wanted him to be the villain. Yeah, the fans are a big part of the problem here. Even if they wanted the big character change, they finally got it, and now they're fickly changing their collective minds with the winds of the internet algorithms, but also still having a good time. Yeah, Cena's attempts at evoking a highly clear, just negative reaction is getting more mixed reactions, and no one is quiet, and the division is still there. There's still Cena sucks, let's go Cena to some degree, and that's always been there. But the ethical back turn to cheat and win the world title and all that stuff, was it worth it? Even though he's had rivalries against Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, his promos have had little to do with his opponents. It's more him versus the fans. The lack of depth, the mind games make the rivalries just not as synced in as you might need them to be, and it seems like a night and day difference compared to another heel turn we saw, Roman Reigns turning into a bad guy. We get it. Cena isn't Reigns and Reigns isn't Cena. But when it comes to shocking turns of characters to the dark side, is there a better recent example than Roman Reigns' transition into a villain and the way it was handled? If you check our video on the insane psychology of Roman Reigns in the tribal chief character, the key word there was depth. There was just so much depth to his tribal chief character, and the past elements of the previous 8 years, especially the flaws, turn him into the most Machiavellian villain we've seen in recent WWE. Cena, in comparison, in his heel run now is limited. He literally has limited dates advertised in his farewell tour. That's worth noting in all of this. This is his final year in WWE, and they're really throwing this curveball at us with this entire heel turn. So the fact that he is limited in when he's going to be on TV is also going to limit the ability of depth you can present in this character. So what exactly is the psychology of John Cena's heel turn? It seems getting fans upset with him for booing him over the years when he still fought for the fans who cheered for him is what bothers him now, and now he's seeking a kind of unanimous hatred from the audience. He's trying to unite them in hating him, and maybe that's not exactly working. The whole "you get nothing" angle from Cena is taken at face value as not giving the fans what they want. Whether they loved him or hated him, he gave them everything when he was the franchise player. Now he will simply not give them as much, or if anything at all. It makes sense as a villain. He wouldn't give the fans what they were fantasy booking. I'll keep hammering that word, which includes new things like new music and new gear and a fresh presentation and the burlesque of pro wrestling. Why is he not wearing new wrestling gear? Is it mandatory? Would it have made that much of a difference for the keyboard correctors online? Apparently it did, and Cena knows this, and he's not going to give it to you. We mean he's a heel. He's going to be a heel in 2025, and maybe that means not giving people everywhere at every point of the depth of the wrestling fan base ladder what they want. Yeah, it makes sense, but it just feels still like a surface level move. It's a base hit, and we need a home run. Even the fact that popular rapper Travis Scott got involved in the main event of WrestleMania 41 and helped him win makes no sense. There's no follow-up to any of this. That part was genuinely confusing for everyone. We haven't even addressed that The Rock, the guy who got this whole thing going at the Elimination Chamber, and maybe in the eyes of some ruined the creative process, should have been there. But we couldn't check that box because he wasn't there. But keep it short, the fact that he felt the final boss wasn't needed for WrestleMania 41 in the entire mix, I don't know, it just feels like that's a huge missing part of this, especially if The Rock got Cena to turn heel. Triple H reportedly even went on the High Performance podcast and stated that the idea was to make John Cena so desperate for world title number 17 that he was willing to sell his soul for it. Well, the guy you sold your soul to wasn't there when you won the world title that you wanted so much. There are so many pieces of this story that we see that are all there that haven't been connected to what we're getting now. It just feels like there's a lot of missing gaps, mostly The Rock in this whole thing. And it feels like there's just not as much of a cohesion to everything week to week. Cena not being at the TV shows every week does not mean that WWE isn't capable of continuing in his absence with pre-shot promos, maybe something from The Rock, maybe something from another supporting character to keep the thread going. They did this with Roman Reigns when he was a part-time sleazeball main eventer who was chased by the heroes and the bloodline would defend his will. It all weighs heavier on us when we consider that this is still Cena's farewell tour, scheduled for his final match in WWE in December. Yeah, but it's hard to believe knowing that this type of character is what Cena has been behind the scenes. It just doesn't really connect. Maybe it isn't as legitimate as one would hope in perception. While it's true that he's been a good soldier who will do what he's told, he's also smart enough to be aware that he has the power to dictate the depth of his character. But maybe his movie conflicting schedule is getting in the way of that. And that along the way, the current WWE creative heaps and hurdles that they're going through, that this is one of the many reasons why it maybe isn't hitting the mark. The allure of that moment at Elimination Chamber, which still sticks with many, may not hold the same resonance it did back in February and March. The Rock's interview with Pat McAfee after WrestleMania gave us quite a bit of insight into why it may not be a long-term plan, but was a short-term shocking one. The Rock revealed that he was called by Ari Emanuel, WWE TKO executive, allegedly to boost ticket sales, which were strong, but not fantastically strong at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto. I attended the show. It was very well attended. And just like that, in a short matter of time, Triple H and his creative team were tasked with pulling off a story that had to be the most shocking heel turn we've seen in decades. Bigger than Hulk Hogan joining the NWO back in WCW. The problem is, with this, it left little time to focus on telling a story that could have been crafted for a longer period. And it truly built to a stunning moment to close out Elimination Chamber in Toronto, one that sticks with me as someone who was in the crowd, but maybe the fickle fandom who wanted Cena to become the new NWO with The Rock over time. The overall perception is that Triple H and his creative team, their style of storytelling, has its strengths in its ability to happen and play out over long periods of time, especially considering how much content WWE has on so many platforms week to week, giving fans satisfying long-term playoffs. Suddenly, he was in a position where he had to execute something that was so massive with very little notice, and it's no wonder that it was lost in the allure of Cena's first time returning to Raw after Elimination Chamber. Crowds in Europe were losing their mind, but maybe they don't get Raw all the time. It was pretty cool, but it wasn't as cool as it needed to be. It didn't allow for the seeds to be planted. It didn't allow for a satisfying payoff over a long-term thing. This was microwaved. It wasn't slow burned. And the result has been his 17th world title win at WrestleMania 41, not feeling like it should feel. Are we wrong about this? The feud against Randy Orton was then constrained by the fact that the match happened just 3 weeks after WrestleMania 41. Not gonna hold that one against WWE when you have an arena in Randy Orton's hometown, St. Louis, and he's taking on his generational foe in John Cena on his farewell tour. Take it when you can get it. But still, a 3-week turnover is pretty challenging. You've patiently watched enough, and we're gonna stop complaining. So now let's look at how WWE's creative team can commit with the utmost priority to leaving little room for sudden changes in the plan that they have now following the road to WrestleMania and the final road for John Cena. We aren't suggesting that WWE shouldn't be flexible or ready for different plans. They always have to be with everything, injuries, everything. But we're talking about ensuring that an overall course of the story plays out as it's meant to over the next few months. This means that if The Rock is going to show up and shake everything up, that's a part of the idea, and there's real ripple effects in what comes from what he does, and it's dialed into the overall mission of Cena versus the world and his pursuit to ruin wrestling. A good story to be told with John Cena slowly descending into madness, turning into a psychotic villain, with an actual depth to his character, loss in the hubris of what he's accomplished and what he needs to accomplish as the clock ticks down to 0. But this requires a lot of effort and the back end and the front end of things. As we mentioned, maybe some clever new ideas need to be introduced that we can't even think of, but hey, we're just talking here. The creative team has to have their intentions of telling a story that doesn't feel like it's not just playing to the casual fan and the diehard fan, but to anyone tuning in at any time, but also the people that have been there the whole time. It's a hard thing to pull off, and making everyone happy may not be what it's about. A slow-burning descent into madness for John Cena could be the way to go, and a tragic ending of sorts for his run in WWE may even be the best way to go. It means that there would need to be a lot of commitment to ensuring that John Cena doesn't turn face until the very end in December. Yeah, at some point, he's gonna be a good guy again, right? He can't end this as a villain. It can be told as a story where he's so desperate to prove that he's the greatest, that he causes the destruction around him, an attempt to get that clear validation. It can finally culminate with him crashing and burning, bowing out as a hero who stayed long enough to be a villain, and the villain whose own demons eventually destroyed him. There's still time to salvage it, and we think WWE can do that. We hope they will, and they commit to a vision to turn this thing around. It's the best chance they have at saving WWE from John Cena. Yeah, what do you think? Who do you think will defeat Cena in this entire thing? Who will take this world title from him? Give us your pitch in the comments below. Look at you watching this whole thing. Thank you so much. Until the next time, thank you for watching.